Several million people go missing every year, and Robin is one of the people who are going and looking for them, and that globally and 24/7 if necessary. So welcome, Robin, to be on the Safety Huddle podcast. And if you would like to introduce yourself a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. Inga, thank you very much for having me on. I am Robin, currently 30 years old, involved as a country coordinator for the National Association for Search and Rescue, and I am a social entrepreneur for my company MHANS International Responder Development, as well as developing a few other projects and making sure that we can develop search and rescue internationally.
Okay, nice. I think that's a very interesting, very important topic. So let's start immediately in with search and rescue missions. So what are unique challenges of your search and rescue missions?
So the unique challenges that we deal as search and rescue is that we are literally looking for a needle in a haystack. It's so multifaceted from different types and angles, and it always requires a multidisciplinary response. So when somebody goes missing, it's not just we're going to search and hopefully that we find something. It's a complicated web of integrated professionals and theory and science, and it's not just licking your finger and hope that we're pressing the finger on the map and that's where we're going to search. It is a combined effort from multiple types and kinds of resources, and if you are aware of crisis management, that is a very important thing to know, where we can differentiate between the types of organizations that we deploy. The major part of it is that a majority of search rescue is always a volunteer response. So even my position as a country coordinator is a volunteer position here in the Netherlands from NASA. And the major thing, that's also the challenge, because we have so many different faceted organizations. We have volunteer organizations, we have law enforcement, we have fire, we have wilderness SAR, we have urban collapse structure search and rescue, we have missing person search and rescue, rope rescue. All of these facets and all these multiple disciplines come together and need to work as one engine. For me, search and rescue is the main default and should be the example child for multidisciplinary response for crisis management and multiple agency response.
Okay, sounds very interesting. Can you talk a little bit about the countries that you worked in, or maybe a very interesting mission that you have been on?
So I've been all over the world. One of the major things I do as a volunteer and through my social entrepreneurship, MHANS International Responder Development, is to go to different countries. For example, I've been to the USA to gather knowledge there, where I have brought the instruction side of things from NASA over back to Europe, where we're now working on developing instructors for international certification in ground-based search and rescue for missing persons. I've been in South Africa, got a massive shout out to my friends at the Mountain Rescue team of South Africa, so the MCSA, the Mountain Club of South Africa. Amazing people, highly professional. And even those guys are volunteer. And what you'll see is that these guys, to my knowledge and to my awareness, are some of the busiest search and rescue teams stated around Cape Town area or the general parts of South Africa. I have had the opportunity to interact with multiple international search and rescue organizations, including the advocacy side of it, the International Association for Search and Rescue Coordinators, Institute of Search and Technical Rescue, with some people from the urban collapse structure from INSARAG, and many other like-minded individuals. Next week, I'm heading out to Germany, and it is such a blessing also to have traded knowledge with some of my friends in UK, and massive shout out to my contact there, Clive Bush, for facilitating some of the rope rescue development that he's been.
Yeah, I can imagine that exchanging with other people from other countries is very important, as you have different terrain there, as you have different cultures, different languages, and sometimes you have to look across borders for people, right? So yeah, I think that's a very good thing to exchange and see how other people are doing their search and rescue.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit
You also
more.
asked
Yeah, sorry.
about.
No, go ahead, please.
You also asked, there was a cut in the line. There was a little bit of delay. Sorry for my interruption.
Okay.
So you were asking about an interesting mission that was recent. An interesting mission that recently was the search for a missing child and a father. Providing active some consultancy to a search team that was on the ground over there, and it resulted to hopefully indeed the contribution of the find of this specific case. I can't go into the full details of it because of law enforcement, but I do want to press that the search management side of things that is eventually solve this case. So there's something which we call search theory in search and rescue. It is the combination we call lost person behavior. If you're really interested, I highly recommend you to look up the work of Mr. Robert Kester, Lost Person Behavior. You will basically, it is a study, a scientific backed study, and it's a collaboration of different entities that contributed to a database, which allows us to gather and use the historical data to provide mapping or to give a general direction and to set out search areas, which allows us to have a higher chance of probability to find our missing persons. And that is what contributed to define that specific last case.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. Maybe if we stick to that, what are you using technology-wise? Because you said you're sometimes looking for a needle in a haystack, right? So how does technology help you on your search and rescue missions?
Well, we can't go around our modern-day phone anymore. It is such a handy-dandy tool for what we're doing. Keep in mind that it has the limited capability, especially if you're out there in the wilderness. Do not rely on it. But the capability to have mapping and communications and to have the app of lost person behavior from Mr. Kester on your phone is such a easy way to carry information out in a wilderness situation and to go out there and to have something which allows you to gather knowledge, but also take pictures, for example. Although I don't highly recommend taking pictures of evidence because it might get a result in getting your phone confiscated due for police as evidence itself. So drones is a major development we have been seeing lately, including use of artificial intelligence. One of the things I've been experimenting with is Strava, which allows you to use open source intelligence to use heat maps to have a little bit of an idea where people's behavior and history go. And when we cross that over with lost person behavior, we're able to get a little bit of an added tool to our major search management efforts. But it's not just something which we go on and take for granted. It's an add-on to what we're doing. As long as that, we have been seeing ROVs in underwater searching, digital mapping, but also the implementation of mesh networking is what I've been seeing. So it's basically an off-grid form of communication. It's called uses over LoRa, and it's too long to explain in the short amount of podcasts that we're doing, but basically allows you to send SMS text messages to an off-grid network. The combination with something that's called haystack is something that's highly been developing. Something that's I'm recently seeing something that's called meshtastic and all its relevant variants. That's causing a little bit of an implementation within the STAR structures and STAR community.
Yeah, okay, that's very interesting. But like you're saying, we can't have our modern times, 21st century, without phones. Everyone who is going missing probably has his phone with him, and also we can use the technology that we have. I've also been on a search and rescue course where we had to search by foot. We had like a forest. We need to find a person by foot. And then we had a drone. So we sat there. We just had the drone hovering over the forest. And of course, was way more easy to find it. But you're also saying like it has limitations. So if the forest is getting too dense, of course, the drone can't do much about it. So yeah, I totally agree what you're saying, that if you combine these two things, the human and the technology, that you have a very good team for finding people who have gone missing.
Agreed. And especially the combination with canines and drones is something that I highly recommend in using. If your canines are not aware of drones and they're not trained in combination with drones, they might be a little bit scared of it. So it is highly recommended for me, even as a non-canine handler, what I've seen in the field, to use the combination, because scent and aerial coverage allows you for the drone to have a big overview. Because of its limitation, indeed, we have done some tests. It's pretty much impossible to look through canopy. If you've probably have been on a helicopter, same problems apply. Just the major advantages of a drone, it's allows you to carry it. It's kind of hard to carry a helicopter.
That's true, yeah. And drone is cheaper, right? So it's because if you have to start a helicopter,
Indeed.
that costs a lot of money. A drone, yeah, like you're saying, I don't know how much the small video drone costs. Yeah, it's not much, and everyone basically can have it and can use it. Yeah.
But there is a whole extra side to that, because people are not aware that it's not just you have a drone and you go search. No, you actually need to know the search theory and how to use the camera and everything for evidence.
Okay. Yeah, can you just talk a little bit more about it? So if I'm someone who wants to go into search and rescue, yeah, how can I get into the field? Do you use a drone for search pattern? Is there a difference on how you search by foot? Maybe we can go a little bit into this field.
I think your first question regarding how do you get in search and rescue, it is highly to be pressed down. That is most of the time a extremely volunteer-based field. The chance of you getting paid in search and rescue is extremely low, but if you want to advance into a professional career in search and rescue, the highest chance for you is either in some kind of a park ranger, so a forest protection, animal protection environment where you're dedicated to protect forests, protect animals, manage parks or national parks, for example, where people do get lost. But the highest chance to do this profession is either law enforcement or military. So law enforcement organizations internationally have started to develop or have a dedicated section towards missing persons. And those usually sometimes are inclined to manage missing person searches with lost persons and search and rescue. But if you're coming in from a volunteer, so you would just want to contribute your skills, so you have somebody that is highly skilled like you, Inga, and you want to contribute your skills like medically, then they're always looking for the volunteer teams for people that have good medical background, that are reliable, that know what they're doing, that are dedicated, but know that it takes a significant amount of your own time and money towards the efforts that you will be doing. Treat it as a volunteer career instead, because that's what it is. It requires the same amount of dedication that you need in your full-time career. Same thing with search and rescue, but then you don't usually pay for it.
Okay. Yeah, we are talking also about like K9, or like if you have a drone and you want to use it for search and rescue, how can you maybe add on, if you already have the skill, and add on to support search and rescue missions?
Yes. So our friendly, lovely canines, we need to know that canines have huge advantages and disadvantages. So if you're starting as a canine handler, you need to be, any search and rescue certification is required for anybody that is hopefully getting into what they're doing with search and rescue. I highly recommend looking at NASAR or ICAR or some of the other international based bodies that either do internal forms of certification, or you're looking, for example, like NASAR for international based certification, which allows you to profile yourself and to be a competent person. There is a specific path that I highly recommend, either for becoming a canine handler or a drone operator. It's highly important that you need to understand the search side of things first before you start specializing into something which is something like drones, because you need to understand both sides. It's not that you train a dog and hopefully that you have success. In Europe, for example, human remain detection dogs are less effective than human remains detection dogs that are based from the USA, because in the USA, due to laws and differentiations, allows them to work with human remains body parts, with actual human remain body parts. when we have, or in the Netherlands or most of the European countries, don't allow you to use real human remains to train for volunteer search and rescue. Some of the professional and government-based organizations do have some form of relevance, but either because they had deployment in an area which had human remains, or they have been to an organization that allows them to do that. But it reduces effectiveness for volunteer-based human remains detection dogs in Europe. So that's something to keep in mind. So before you get anybody that is in search and rescue, make sure you ask what their relevant experiences, what they've been going through, what their qualifications, certifications is, because there's a major difference between somebody that's willing and somebody that's capable within search and rescue. And that's why it's highly important for people to know that, yes, you're willing, but you need to be making yourself capable, either through internal certification and recognition of the organization with, or a international body like NASA, for example.
Okay. Yeah. When we talk about certification, I think you also offer a training program, right? For people who would like to get in the industry. So if you maybe can talk a little bit more about this.
Yes, so we've been pushing this as a cart puller in Europe for now, facilitating NASAR's certification rescue. We've been facilitating this in Europe, starting off since 2 years now, facilitating SARTEC deployment certifications. For example, we're now working on to the instructor development side of things. So we're working in, for example, recently being in contact with some of the UK search and rescue to develop instructors over there. Been in contact in the past with South Africa to develop some search and rescue instructors over there. But we're, as a social entrepreneurship, we try to keep the costs low for search and rescue volunteers specifically because of their dedication, the amount of time that they put in. Courses vary from just basic wilderness first aid to map and compass to a full SARTEC 2 course from NASA, which makes you from somebody that has never touched search and rescue in their life to at least being somebody that is competent enough to deploy in the field and maintain 24 hours self-reliance for searching for missing persons under guidance of a search manager, to somebody that is working in remote environments in a search capability.
Okay, how do you inspire new search and rescue responders to get on the team?
So one of the things that we have been actively doing is, the major thing is advocacy. And we're trying to make a major difference by advocating for search and rescue volunteers worldwide. One of the things we've been doing that is getting in contact with government here in the Netherlands, for example, advocating that we have a voluntary response capability that is trained, willing, and capable and able to assist them with when a crisis develops, either a flood or a missing person or whatever their problem is, and that it's unused, and most of the time it's free to use, which is a major benefit towards them. Another thing that we have been doing recently, what I've been doing with some of my contacts, is we're starting something called SARTREX. It's the International Search and Rescue Training Exchange. That's what the acronym as well is. Search and Rescue International Training Exchange, SARTREX. It's inspired based on the wildland variant of what I've been a part of in 23 when I was in South Africa, being a part of the Women's and Wildfire Training Exchange. If people are listening to that, massive thank you for that, because it is inspired me to build a program with some of my contacts in the search and rescue international community to do full profit, non-profit search and rescue training through either a 3-month program. It allows us through bringing on sponsors on board, which allows us to provide for the food, for the training and certification, to bringing on international accredited instructors, and to share this knowledge not only with the international audience, that search and rescue community that's coming to a specific hosting country, but also with the local communities who will be involving with things like we call PSAR, preventative search and rescue. So the amount of missing persons through community education will decrease. And that's called sartrex.org. It's still in concept. We're still working some figuring it out, because when we started it, it's a massive project that I've stumped my toe on multiple times. But the more that we are able to do products through Mhans or sell some of the more profitable courses outside of search and rescue, the more that we are able as a social entrepreneurship guide through our mission, either to put funding into or to provide equipment at a discounted price towards search and rescue organizations, or develop Star Treks, or make videos in our case.
Yes. Yeah, talking about videos, I mean, we're on this channel right now, but you also have your own YouTube channel, right? Enhance Responder Development, right? Where you share videos about technology. You talked about Strava. There are also videos on your channel. So whoever is interested to know more about Robin's work can go to his YouTube channel. I will all link it down below. You have a website where you can look into the courses and go on the course with Robin if you want to go to search and rescue missions. And of course, I will share your LinkedIn profile and your Instagram profile.
Please. Thank you so much. It's highly appreciated, Inga, for what you've been doing also with Foxpedition.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for being on the podcast. I think it was very interesting to talk about search and rescue. And yeah, get in contact with Robin, get in contact with me if you want to. And yeah, thank you very much. And I hope to see you one day in person.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Bye-bye.